right, peace, and power and elevation be to all the beautiful people out there. This your girl Tiffany coming through here, live in effect. So I'm back again. All right, so before I get started, let me go ahead and check my sound. Let me go ahead and check my sound. Let me go ahead. Okay, cool. Cool. All right, so maybe I just need to turn it down just a little bit. All right. All right, so my sound should be good. Let me see how I sound now. Maybe I just need to turn it down just a little bit. All right. All right, so my sound should be good. Let me see how I sound now. Maybe I just need to turn it down just a little bit. All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right, so this subject is dealing with, did the Arab scholars decipher the Medu Neter before the Europeans? Okay, so a lot of people don't know, or they have not been told, that the Arabs was one of the first to decipher what is called, what we know as Medu Neter, but it's the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Okay, and there's some information that I have to verify and back up what I'm saying. Okay, all right. So in my previous video, when I was talking about the question regarding to the 5 phases of ancient Egyptian, right? And as I was dealing with the 5 question about the 5 phases of the ancient Egyptian language, I came across the information about the Arabs, which that was actually by mistake, to be honest. But I just said, well, dang, I didn't even know anything about this. I was unaware of it, that the Arabs was one of the first to make the attempt to decipher the Medu Neter. So I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and look more into this, and maybe I'll do this on the next day. So I happened to look up information. Of course, one of the books that I posted was about the, let me pull up the title of the book, because I have it. All right, so the title of the book, one of the books that I have, is called The Egyptology, the Missing Millennium, Ancient Egypt and Medieval Arabic Writings. Okay, so this was written by Akasha El Daily. All right. Akasha El Daily. Okay, so he wrote that book. And then there's another author named Jason Thompson. He wrote a book called Wonderful Things, A History of Egyptology from Antiquity to 1881. Okay. And so there's many other. And then also I have a writing by a lady named Tara Stephen. It's called Writing the Past, Ancient Egypt Through the Lens of Medieval Islamic Thoughts. So before I get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, share the channel, like the channel, etc., etc. All that great stuff, okay? Then I'll go into the information. All right, so one of the things that people can do to find out, of course, which, you know, many argue that it's not always a reliable source. I mean, yeah, and that's true that Wikipedia is not 100% reliable. However, that's why you use backup information to verify the source from Wikipedia, okay? You always use backup information. So, let's go to right here where it says decipherment of ancient Egyptian scripts, all right? And as you can see in the session, it talk about Jean-Francois Champollion, and they also talk about Thomas Young on here. And it goes into the concept about the Rosetta Stone, etc. Then on the other session, it speaks on Egyptian script and their extinction, right? Okay, so you go down to here and you're going to scroll down on the third session, which it goes into the early efforts of medieval Islamic world. All right, so check this out. It says Arab scholars were aware of the connection between Coptic and the ancient Egyptian language, and Coptic monks in Islamic time were sometimes believed to understand the ancient scripts. Several Arab scholars in the 17th through the 14th centuries, including Jabir ibn Hayari and Ayub ibn Maslama, are said to have understood hieroglyphs. Although, because their works on the subject have not survived, these claims cannot be tested. Now it says Don Nun al-Mazari and Ibn Washia in the 9th and 10th centuries wrote treatises containing dozens of scripts known in the Islamic world, including hieroglyphs, with tables listing their meanings, right? In the 13th or 14th century, Abu al-Qasim al-Iraqi copied an ancient Egyptian text and assigned phonetic values to several hieroglyphs. All right, so it says the Egyptologist Akasha el-Daily has argued that the tables of hieroglyphs, in the words of Ibn Washia and Abu al-Qasim, correctly identify the meaning of many of the signs. Other scholars have skeptical of Ibn Washia's claim to understand the script he wrote about. And Tara Stephen, a scholar of the medieval Islamic world, says El-Daily facilely overemphasized Ibn Washia's accuracy. Ibn Washila and Abu al-Qasim did recognize that hieroglyphs could function phonetically as well as symbolically, a point that would not be acknowledged in Europe for centuries. Okay, so basically, the argument is that those who had made the attempt to decipher the script, it was 4 Arabs. All right, so but the other 2 cannot be verified, but one of them can be verified. All right. So let's go into the information. Now, as you can see, you see these little numbers right here. These numbers will take you to the references to the source. So watch this. Let me click on 19. The reference go down to El-Daily 2005. When you click on 20, as you see, it says Stephen 2017. All right. Okay. So what I am going to do, right, I am going to go to the sources. Okay. And one of the sources that I'm going to go to is the Egyptology Missing Millennium. Okay, so if you guys can see that, cool. Here it is, right here. Now let's go down to the part that says artistic and religious reason for Arab interest in ancient scripts. So it said Jakeman has discussed a number of reasons for the interest on the part of Arabs in the ancient script. She suggests 2 main reasons: the esoteric quality of the Egyptian script and the alchemical meaning attached to the characters. The view of this esoteric association of Egyptian letters was not limited to Arabic writers, as it became popular later in Europe. Alchemists closely associated with Sufism took a great interest in Egyptian script. Also important is the Sufi interest in calligraphy, for which Egyptian hieroglyphs met all the criteria laid out in Sufi circles. See, many of us did not know that those who was in the Sufi Islamic doctrine, they took on studying about the hieroglyphs to incorporate into their Sufi information, right? So they was doing it for esoteric reason and also for alchemical reason as well. So at that time, alchemy, right, was a big thing. And of course, a lot of them was dealing with esoteric knowledge. So they see that the calligraphy behind the Egyptian script, which was the hieroglyphs, they figured that they can incorporate that into their language, right? And be able to make an attempt to decipher it. But let's continue. And it says portion and letterings, which should have balanced symmetry and similarity. Parallelism, where the forms of letters face in the same direction and are the same distance apart, like Arabic Kufaiti. Straightness of arrangements, in which Arabic calligraphy means the harmony between the diversity of letter forms and the unity of the overall work, and the creation of lines of text facing each other, also a common feature of Egyptian hieroglyph. Grateful regularity by keeping the order and form of the letter throughout the text. Aesthetic of enigma, which is the challenge posed by the unknown script. It also invites the viewer to think and inspire his sense of curiosity. Surpassing the horror of the void, everywhere available space is filled. All right. Then it goes on to say, to these criteria, I would add the vividness of the colors that distinguish Islamic calligraphy and which is also seen in Egyptian hieroglyphs. All right. So there is a widely held misconception that Islamic rules of art disapprove of representation of the human form, and because of this, many hieroglyphs would be unacceptable to the Muslim artists and calligraphers. This is untrue. As a visit to any Islamic art collection shows, and it is clear that the ancient Egyptian art were major sources of inspiration for the Muslim artists. I have been unable to trace any Islamic injunction against appreciation of the aesthetic of hieroglyphs. Moreover, in textile from the Ottoman period, there are many examples of Arabic script clearly emulating hieroglyphics. All right, give me a moment. It says the copyists of many of the Arabic manuscripts on deciphering hieroglyphs were themselves most pious Muslims, to judge from their own statements. The copyists of the unique manuscripts of Du al-Nun al-Mazari signed the cover of his copy as Sheikh Ali al-Hamawi al-Kawati and dated it 1130 H equals 1718 CE. All right, so then it also goes down to say at the very bottom, from an Islamic viewpoint, it is easy to see why Egyptian hieroglyph would be attracted to Muslim Sufis. Moreover, the passion of Sufis for metaphor and would encourage them to feast on hieroglyphs, known for its rich metaphor, and Sufi alchemists such as Jabir ibn Hayyan wrote treatises on the subject of the forms of letters, as did the prominent Sufi Ibn al-Arabi. All right. But perhaps a more important reason for the study of Egyptian language and scripts is the curiosity of the intellectual that manifests itself in a study seminar held by medieval Arab scholars to discuss ancient Egyptian material and inscription. Also, in the introduction to various ancient scripts, the writer of the Arabic manuscripts attribute to Ayub ibn Maslama echoed this idea of learning the ancient script to acquire knowledge and wisdom, and keep what had reached of the science of these scripts. For even if the virtues of this science was limited to its carrier, the one who deals in it is able to reach the secrets of sages and philosophers and what they wrote to the kings and caliphs, which they kept from the ordinary and ignorant, and he does not miss out on any of their affairs. For this is the science that must be passed on and early kept from those who are not worthy of it. All right, so if you guys want to check out more of this information from this book, it's called Egyptology, The Missing Millennium, Ancient Egypt in Medieval Arabic Writings, okay, by Akasha El Daily. All right, so that is one evidence. All right, so let's look into another piece of information here. All right, so let me pull this one up. Hmm. All right, so this book right here, which is called The Wonderful Things, A History of Egyptology by Jason Thompson. Let's see. Because it doesn't have the whole entire book on here, so I'm on the Google Books. All right, so basically it's talking about Napoleon, right? But I'm trying to see if there's a paragraph about the Arabs' history. Mm. Okay, it's not on here, but it's not on. Well, I can't find it on here. However, if you guys want to check out this book, it's by Jason Thompson. It's called A History of Egyptology, uh, Part 1 from Antiquity to 1881. Right, I can't even find the page right now, but yeah, you guys can look it up for yourself and check out this book. So I'm just gonna go on to the next source. All right, let me go ahead and go on to the next source. All right, so the next source right here is written by Hassam Munir. All right, this one's called Meet the Muslim Who Cracked History's Most Famous Code. And it says it's safe to say that there is no ancient writing that has captured the attention of anyone who came across it the way Egyptian hieroglyph writing has. For centuries, emperors, scholars, travelers, grave robbers, and many others have stopped by the walls of Egypt's enduring monuments to examine the mysterious symbol and images etched into the stone, thinking about what they might mean. It was in the 1820s that the French scholar Jean-Francois Napoleon finally cracked the code, opening the door for the world to study and discover the incredible ancient history of Egypt in a way that had previously been impossible. All right. But it also says this, but was Napoleon really the first person to successfully decipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs? He certainly deserved credit for his groundbreaking achievement in Egyptology, but in reality, the process was underway almost 1,000 years before Napoleon even was born. Because at the end of the 9th century, an alchemist by the name of Abu Bakr ibn Washila managed to decipher about half of all Egyptian hieroglyphic symbol, considering the fact that there are a total of about 700 800 symbols to be cracked. This was an achievement that deserved recognition. All right, so it says Ibn Washila's contribution was first brought to the light in 2004 by the London-based Egyptologist Dr. Akasha El-Daily, a professor at UCL's Institute of Archaeology. El-Daily did extensive research on the study of ancient Egypt and medieval Arab Islamic writing, and convincingly argued that not only did Muslims express a deep interest in the study of ancient civilization, but that they could also correctly decipher Egyptian hieroglyphic script. But who was this Ibn Washila, and why was he trying to decipher the hieroglyphs in the first place? The little information we have about his background is hopelessly confusing, though we can say that he was probably from a scholarly Christian Arab family that had embraced Islam. He lived in Kufa during the early Abbasid period, when the scholarly and scientific movement at the famous House of Wisdom in nearby Baghdad was in full swing. And he was an alchemist, which it was probably in the hope of discovering the ancient Egyptian secrets of alchemy that he was trying to decipher their mysterious system of writing. And it says that he had other cryptic alphabets as well, 93 of them, in fact, including alphabets used by the ancient Babylonian, Egyptian, Semitic, Hellenistic, and Hindu civilization. He published his findings in a text titled Kitab Shawat al Mashtaham, in which he gave a list of hieroglyphic symbols, their meaning, either as sounds or words, in their Arabic equivalent. So, stop right there. So that means Joseph Greenberg wasn't the first one to make the comparison between Arabic and the Egyptian language. Obviously, you can see that the Muslims have done that as well, and they saw some form of similarity with those languages as well. So why we don't hear that very often? So they was one of the first to even make comparison of languages by studying the hieroglyph and studying with Arabic. But let's continue. All right, so it says, Al-Daily compared Ibn Washila conclusion on hieroglyphics with Egyptologists' modern day understanding of them and found them to be accurate. All right, here are the symbols. Egyptian alphabet according to Ibn Washila. All right, if you guys can see that. All right, so I hope you guys can see that. Okay, so going down, let's see. I have to skip some of this, but it says the discovery of Ibn Washila contribution opened up the discussion of the role of classical Muslim thinker in the field of Egyptology, which had been ignored for centuries, partly because of a prevailing Eurocentric emphasis on history and partly because the relevant manuscripts were scattered and not accounted for. Just a few years after Al-Daili's revelation, some historians have already begun to recognize Ibn Washila as the first real Egyptologist in history. Okay? And then about a century later, another Muslim, Abu Rayhan al-Biruni, would become the first Indologist in history. All right. And Al-Daily emphasized that because of their prejudice about Islam, Western scholars have been unfair to classical Muslim Egyptologists. Western culture misinterprets Islam because we in the West think teaching of civilization before Quran is shunned, which isn't the case. He said they value history and assume Egypt was a land of science and wisdom, and as such, they wanted to learn their language to have access to such vast knowledge. And it goes on to say, in reality, the research in Egyptology that classical Muslims carry out is even more reliable than the research of their contemporaries in pre-modern Christian Europe. Critically, the Muslim, did not, unlike the West, write the history to fit with the religious idea of the time, which made their accounts more reliable, said Al-Daily. They were also keen on the universality of human history based on the unity of the origin of human beings and the diversity of their appearance and languages. All right. So, and it also goes down, if you skip down just a little bit, it also talks about Ayub ibn Mashalama to try to translate the fascinating hieroglyphs for him. Ayub failed, but Mamun at least managed to force open the block entrance to the Great Pyramid at Giza that tourists still use today. Jabir ibn Hayyan, who is widely considered to be the father of chemistry, was also fascinated by the hieroglyphs and the secrets they may hold regarding his field of research. Hey, Sister Julanda, how you doing? I hope everything's going well with you. I hope you're doing better. Shout out to Sister Julanda. I hope everything's going well. I hope you're doing good. Appreciate you coming through. Then when we go down to here, what we see, similarity to the 9th century Sufi saint Don Non al-Muzari was also deeply interested in the Egyptian hieroglyph. The classical historian al-Muzin, was it Mazudini? Yeah, Mazudi described him as one of those who elucidated the history of these Egyptian temple ruins. He roamed among them and examined a great quantity of figures and inscription. Dul-Nun al-Mizri is said to have eventually deciphered the hieroglyphs, and while it's not impossible that this is true, it's more likely that he had come up with his own mystical interpretation of the ancient symbol. I know, I dropped out. Hopefully I'm back. Yeah, I dropped out. Yeah, the service went out on me. Okay, so let me go back to where I had started. So Don Nun al-Mazri is said to have eventually deciphered the hieroglyph, and while it is not possible that this is true, it's more likely that he had come up with his own mystical interpretation of the ancient symbol. Either way, he did not take pre-Islamic Egyptian culture for granted, nor did his faith cause him to be too arrogant to ponder over it. There, as we can see, and there may be many more examples just waiting to be discovered. It is possible that another Muslim actually managed to crack the hieroglyphic code entirely. But even with the source we have, we can say with confidence that Ibn Washila, the first real Egyptologist, made the biggest contribution towards deciphering the hieroglyphs until Champollion finished the job nearly 1,000 years later. Muslims today would benefit immensely from continuing to explore different cultural traditions and historical mysteries with the same spirit and zeal. All right, so you see that information. So basically, the Muslims during that time period, they showed interest into learning about the hieroglyphs because a lot of them were Sufi Muslims, okay? And they figured that the unique calligraphy of the hieroglyphs, and it has some type of meaning or interpretation. So they was curious to learn more about it and be able to figure out, well, what's the means behind it, what's the meaning behind these symbols. So a lot of them went studying. Not only they studied the language, but they also toured around the ancient Egypt area. They toured around the pyramids, etc. I hope you guys can still hear me. What's up, Thirsty? Oh no, what's going on? What's happening? Okay, so as you guys can see, this is another website, Muslim Heritage, Deciphering Egyptian Hieroglyphs and Muslim Heritage by Akasha El Daily. So you guys can look that up on your own. I ain't really got to go into that. Um, okay, so let's see. There's another website called bibalice.org, which is hieroglyphs step by step. And as you can see, it pretty much goes into the same thing that I've been reading. So, efforts of Arab scholars in deciphering the symbols of the ancient Egyptian writing. So you guys can look into that yourselves. You see what I'm saying? So, as you can see the Arabic writing here, and you can see the hieroglyphs right here, etc. So this kind of proves the concept about Afro-Asiatic, because not only they were trying to decipher, but as you can see, they were trying to make comparison with the Arabic language. So Thursday, I am going to do the subject about comparative method versus mass comparison, because there's people that makes argument up and down that Afro-Asiatic is not the correct language model, because of the fact that it was used by mass comparison versus comparative method. But last time I checked, the comparative method deals with phonology, morphology, semantics, and lexicon. So the lexicon deals with the word, semantics deals with the meaning, phonology deals with the sound, and the morphology deals with the structure of the letter, right? I thought that's what mass comparison deals. I mean, not mass comparison. Comparative method deals with all those four things that I mentioned. But again, I'll go into that on Thursday. So Thursday, May 19th. Yeah, so May 19th, Thursday. If you guys gonna tune in, make sure y'all tune in on that so I can get into that discussion. Because there are people that argue that, oh, well, Joseph Greenberg's model Afro-Asiatic has been proven to be wrong. Okay, he may use the incorrect model, but his concept of Afro-Asiatic is not wrong because a lot of scholars agree with him. A lot of scholars agree with him, and they use comparative methods to pretty much validate his claim about Afro-Asiatic language. The only thing is he used the wrong type of comparison. His comparison was outdated. I'm just saying though. But anyways, let's go to the next source, right? All right, so you guys can find this book right here. This book is outdated, but you can download it for free on Google. It says Ancient Alphabets and Hieroglyphic Character Explained, with an account of the Egyptian priests and their classes, initiation and sacrifice, in the Arabic language by Ahmad bin Abu bin Washi, right? And it was translated in English by Joseph Hammer. So the translation of English came out in 1806. All right. So the person that wrote this went by the name of Ibn Washila. All right, that's a pseudonym name that he went by, but his real name was Ahmad bin Abu Bakr bin Washi. That was his name. Ahmad bin Abu Bakr bin Washi. All right, so I'm just going down being the instrument. Let me do it like this. Nah, let me not even do that. All right, so this is the author's preface. I'm not going to go into that. All right, so right here it says an explanation of the ancient alphabets and hieroglyphics, right? So it goes in chapter 1, the three usual Oriental alphabets, the Kufitic, the Maghrebian, and the Indian, right? So it's broken down into different sections. So section 1, the Kufitic alphabet, our Lord Ishmael, peace be with him, was the first who spoke Arabic and who wrote the Kufitic, of which 9 different sources were used. All right. Then it goes down to section 2, the Maghrebian or Andalusian alphabet. Then section 3 deals with Indian alphabet of 3 different sorts. All right, so you got chapter 2 broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sessions. Okay, that's not an argument. We know that the Arabs came before Ishmael, though, but I was reading the information in the book. You know what I'm saying? I didn't say that Ishmael came before the Arabs. I was reading the information from the book. You understand what I'm saying? All right, hold on. See, I gotta cut somebody out. Give me a second. Hold on. All right, motherfucker, ain't nobody say that. Ain't nobody fucking goddamn spreading misguidance, you bitch ass nigga. You came over here, okay? Ain't nobody spreading no motherfucking misguidance, all right? I was going by what the fuck I was reading. It's not my fault that you motherfucking late and you just came into this motherfucker, okay? All right, so don't come over here talking about somebody spreading misguidance because that's not what the fuck I'm doing, all right? I was actually showing the information from the fucking book. All right, I was showing a passage from a book. I didn't say this personally my damn self. All right, pay attention. Okay, before you start talking. All right, thank you. Now, back to what I was saying. I'm sorry, because I can't stand when motherfuckers come on here and just say some random shit. That shit pissed me off. Sorry. My bad. All right, so as you can see, this is an old book, so it's a lot of information on here, etc. But let's go down to all right, so let's go down to here. So yeah, I had to keep scrolling down, etc. All right. All right, so it said the alphabet called Hermesines, of the disciple of Hermes, or the first dynasty of the kings in Egypt, as we find them in the writings of the ancient. Every one of these kings invented, according to his own genius and understanding, a particular alphabet in order that none should know them but the sons of wisdom. Few, therefore, are found who understand them in our time. They took the figures of different instruments, trees, plants, and quadrupeds, birds, or their parts and of excuse me, well, let me try to see what I'm at, and of planets and fixed stars. In this manner, these hieroglyphical alphabets became innumerable, like the alphabets of the Indians and Chinese. They were not arranged at all in the order of our letter A, B, C, D, but they had proper characters upon by the invention of these alphabets, and which differ in their figure and order, viz. They express water by using the water symbol. They understood the secret of nature and endeavored to express everything by an appropriate sign so that they might express it by its appearance. Others followed the simple rules of geometry, deriving one alphabet from another, as the Kophet has been derived from the Syrian, the Hebrew from the Chaldean, the Latin from the Greek, and others in this manner from some original. Whoever wishes to become acquainted with all the nice points of the knowledge of alphabets may inquire for the book entitled Solution of Secret and Keys of Treasure by Jabir Hayyan Sufi. All right, who enters into all the necessary explanation and details of this art. Our object is only to mention the most celebrated of these alphabets of the Hermesines or hieroglyphics, and to indicate their particular qualities, for nobody is capable of giving a satisfactory explanation of them all. All right, God directs all things for the best. So, Section 1, Alphabets of the philosopher Hermes the Great. This alphabet is used on the obelisk, the pyramids, and the inscription tables and stone in the temples and other old buildings from the time of the first pharaohs. It does not consist in a series of letters like other alphabets, but in expression composed according to the arrangement made by Hermes the Great. These expressions consist in innumerable figures and signs, which are to lead the mind directly and immediately to the object expressed thereby. This, there is a sign which signifies the name of God Almighty simply alone. If they wish to express one of the particular attributes of God, they added something to the original sign and proceeded in this manner, as you will proceed by the alphabet in question. All right, so let's look at it. It is divided into three series. besides the celestial or supernatural objects, let us begin with the celestial objects and the figures by which they were expressed in the Hermetians language, represented as we have found them. All right, so as you can see, it says God, the Almighty, the All Clement, the Avenger, the All Powerful, the All Merciful, the Nurturer. You get it, etc. So I ain't gonna have to go into all of that. Okay. Venus, Mercury, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, water, etc. All right, so now it says these are the figures of such of the celestial hieroglyphics as we have been able to find and make out, and now we are going to represent the three other classes according to the promise with all the different figures of the Hermeticism alphabets or hieroglyphs. All right. So the first series of hieroglyphs to express words relative to animal and action and affection. All right. So you see life, death, richness, poverty, man, woman, physical good, physical evil, moral good, etc. All right. So yeah, I'm not gonna go any further. I'm skipping some of this stuff down. So see what else I can find on here. All right, so it says second series hieroglyphics significant on words related to trees, plants, and their produce. All right. All right, so it says the fourth series hieroglyphic expressive of words and ideas belonging to minerals. All right, then. So again, this is an old book, and the front cover of it is called. Let me scroll all the way down. All right, it's called Ancient Alphabets and Hieroglyphic Character Explained, with an account of the Egyptian priests and their classes, initiation, sacrifice by Ahmed bin Abu Bakr bin Washi, and it was translated in English by Joseph Hammer. So you guys can look into that if you want to. All right. All right, so the next one is writing the past ancient Egyptian through the lens of medieval Islamic thought. So by Terrace Stephen. All right, so she goes on to say that medieval Islamic scholars had a fascination with the ancient past and wrote about a variety of places and time: Yemen, pre-Islamic Arabia, Egypt, Iran, Greece, and Rome, among others. However, the amount of knowledge scholars had about each region varied widely. For example, the ancient Jewish tradition and biblical accounts are prominent in the literature, as they are relevant for understanding the connection of Islam to other Abrahamic religions. In contrast, little was known about Greece and Rome aside from their great thinkers. Medieval writers either did not have access to material about Greek and Roman politics and history, or they did not consider it useful to reproduce such material, since the heritage they took from Greece and Rome was above all else an intellectual one. Thus, the reasons why medieval writers chose to remember and record certain elements of an ancient civilization are complex, and developing a framework for understanding the works they produce is especially challenging. All right, so it says portrayals of ancient Egypt are a particular significant for several reasons. First, Egypt was a region of central importance in the medieval period for its agricultural yields, as a trading center and as a political center from the time of its conquest through the early modern period. Unlike Yemen, which was somewhat divorced from prominent political capital, Egypt and Iran and their histories were key because of their location close to and oftentimes at the center of early and medieval Islamic empires, from the Umayyads and the Mamelukes. Second, the number of the ancient monuments and buildings located in Egypt was exceptional. Iran had ancient ruins also, as do other regions, but the amount and size of the ones in Egypt made the ancient past an integral part of the top typography of the medieval towns and cities. Islamic scholars such as al-Maskarizi and al-Suyuti felt the need to explain them, why they were there and who built them, because they were a part of the very fabric of their geography, in addition to being popular tourist attraction. Third, other tradition and stories such as the legend of Hermes became associated with Egypt as a way to explain its past. All right. So it goes on to say modern scholars have struggled to create a framework for understanding this history. On the other hand, some like Okasha El Daily argue that there was a sustained interest in connection to the ancient past that extended from the ancient to the medieval to the modern. Others like Elrich Hardeman took a moderate approach and suggest that nostalgia for the past seems to have premeditated Arabic writing about ancient Egypt. Still, other scholars contend that there was a complete break between the pre-Islamic and Islamic past, that medieval people did not identify with the former. The idea of a thread connecting the past to the medieval present is intriguing, but the question of whether or not medieval people identified with the inhabitants of Egypt before the remains, the fact that so many Islamic scholars either consider the ancient monuments sacredless or try to explain them as falling within acceptable religious bounds, make them seem unlikely. A consideration of the case of ancient Iran confirms this trend. While other Persian works sometimes had Islamic themes retrojected onto them, medieval Persian writers also wrote works that glorify the ancient Iranian past, praising kings and heroes, and clearly identify with that history. Perhaps the different treatment of Iran and Egypt had something to do with the available written source material, as medieval Egyptian could not read the hieroglyphs and thus lost that connection to and understanding of their predecessor. How could there be an Egyptian nationalistic segment when medieval writers had limited ways to understand and literally read their past? All right, then. So again, if you guys want to check it out, it's called Arabic Humanities, Islamic Thought, Essays in Honor of Everett K. Rawson, edited by Joseph E. Lowry and Shaukat M. Turawa, if I'm saying it right, Turawa. I think this person has an Arabic name or Islamic name. So yeah. So basically, and in this session where I was reading at, let me go down, writing the past, ancient Egypt through the lens of the medieval Islamic thought. Okay. All right. So that starts on page 256, chapter 13. All right. So before I start answering questions, and that's all the sources that I have, all the materials that I use. All right, so boom. All right, that's the second material. That's the third one. There you go. All right, and that's another material, and that's another material right there. Okay, so here it is. All right, so before I start reading the comments in the chat, and then I might have to look on my phone to read the chat comments as well. All right, so before I go there, here's the thing. What people don't understand is language is a reflection of culture. I'm going to say that again. Language is a reflection of culture. So without culture, there will be no language. All right? So when you see the similarities in languages, right, that goes to show you the relationship of the people during those time periods. All right? So when we talk about ancient Egypt, right, people think that ancient Egypt was just dealing with just black people, or they were just all black, in which that's not necessarily the case. They wasn't really just black people. Okay, they were also a mixed group of people that was inside of ancient Egypt. So And even in that time period, there was no such term as black as we know today. All right, they didn't go by racial terminology. They used some type of um, tribal names to identify themselves. Okay, that's what they went by. There was no concept of black, but now that we use the term black, it's just in a colloquial sense. But that's a social construct in itself. Anyways, that goes to show you the relationship of the people at the time because you know by languages. So let's look at Latin, for example, right? So Latin is the main language. Now from Latin, you got Spanish, you got French, you got Italian, and you got Portuguese. So that goes to show you the relationship of those people and what they have in connection with Latin language. So that means that those words that you hear in these modern day languages was borrowed from the Latin culture, right? Okay, even Arabic. I mean, not where is it? Yeah, Arabic borrowed some words from Spanish. So certain Spanish word can also be an Arabic word, like the word Raul. Raul is an Arabic word, but it's also a Spanish word. Why? Because of the relationship that those Arabs and Spanish had with each other. So you will see that there's a cultural relationship taking place, which brings about influences of languages. So by Egypt being considered as transcontinental country, even though it's in Africa, but parts of it is on the borderline of what we know today as the Middle East, okay, in the Mediterranean area. All right, so over there in Egypt, you got the Levant area, right? Okay, you got Jordan, you got Palestine, you got all of that. So you got those areas that surrounding that country. So that goes to show you that the people in those surrounding areas migrated over to what we know as Egypt, okay, during those ancient time periods. So if we study about the human migration, we study how human migrated from one landmass to another landmass, right? So if you think that people just stayed in one country and that was it and they never went anywhere, then that's a total lie. They migrated. Okay, so they migrated and they went to different places. So those in the Levant area, they migrated over to the place of Egypt and they intertwined with those indigenous people in that land. Okay. All right. So again, you know, the whole argument about were ancient Egyptian people black? No, not necessarily. They weren't just what we call today black. They were also mixed. All right. And they also had immigrants that came over. They had invaders that came over as well. So later on, you had the Romans, you had the Greeks that came over that invaded the country. Then you had the Arabs that came over and took over. So now today, the official language in Egypt is Egyptian Arabic. Egyptian Arabic is the official language. And the religion that's predominantly practiced over there is Islam. Okay, because the Arabs done took over. But you will see there is relationships taking place with the people. So when you look at the origin of language, right, you got to go to the culture. So this is why I agree with the concept about Afro-Asiatic languages, which I will get more into. But I agree with that because as we can see here, based on the information that I pulled up, right, as we can see that the Arabs were so interested during the medieval time period. They went over to Egypt, they studied the pyramids, they learned about the different areas of the pyramids, etc. And they were trying to learn how to decipher the language of Medu Neter because men then were Sufi Muslims. All right. And they seen that there was a lot of similarity with the Medu Neter language, right, which was ancient Egyptian hieroglyph, and the Arabic. They see the similarity, they see the relationship. So that goes to show you the relationship of the people of that region. All right. So which is why you got the term called Afro-Asiatic, because of the relationship of the people in that regional area. All right. The people of the Levant, the people over there in Egypt, etc., etc. That's what you got to look at. All right. So, yeah. So again, yeah, you gotta look at those languages. So, like the Akkadian language, which was spoken by the people of Sumeria, right? They spoke the Akkadian language, is part of the Semitic language family, and the Semitic language family is part of the Afro-Asiatic family. Why? Because once again, you gotta look at the relationship. of the culture, the cultural relationship with the people. Okay, so now let me go ahead and let me answer this boy's question. I have a question. Is ancient Egyptian language the same as hieroglyphs? It is. The ancient Egyptian language is the hieroglyphic language. Okay? So the hieroglyphic language, as we know it today, goes back to ancient Egyptian language. All right? So the reason why I did not answer your fucking question is because I was looking at the fucking material. That's why. Okay? But however, the hieroglyphs, all right, ancient Egypt was not the only one had its own hieroglyphs or calligraphy. All right, many other cultures did too. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, ancient Egyptian mainly used hieroglyphic. They used a lot of hieroglyphs, and basically they were just symbols. That's all it is. It's just symbols. The symbols represent something. It represents an animal. It may represent a person. It may represent a feeling. It represents something. All right, that's all it is. Man, Omar, fuck you. Shut the fuck up. Get your bitch ass out of here. Get your bitch ass out of here. You know what? Get your bitch ass up out of here, man. Don't ask me no more question. How about that? Don't ask me no more question, nigga. Let this be your final question that you ask. So I hope that I answer all your questions, because I think you just coming on here to troll on my page, my dude. So if you want to just come on here and troll, then I ain't got nothing else to say to you. All right? And exactly, you're right. Ancient Egypt was written with hieroglyphs. That's it. And all it is just calligraphy. It's just what they call it, iconography. That's all it is. Iconography, which is dealing with symbols. Objects. That's all it is. Those symbols represent an animal. It represents a place. It represents a person. That's it. They use a lot of iconography. Yeah, but Omar, don't ask me no more questions, man, because you just coming on here just to troll. You just coming on here just to troll. That's all I know. You just come on here just to troll my page. Is that fair? I'm finna put your goofy ass in timeout. Yeah, I had to put him in timeout because bro just want to come on my page and troll. Let me see if I got any more question on my Let me see. Let me see if I got any more questions on my phone. Okay, no. All right, so no more question on here. All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with these folks, Julanda. I guess they trying to come on here and troll, but they know that I'll stop that trolling shit right then and there. Anybody else got any question on here or any other comments before I log off? Because I didn't see any more questions. But yeah, basically, and when you understand languages, right, you understand cultural relationships. All right. So that was the reason why Greenberg made that concept about Afro-Asiatic. He wasn't doing it just to randomly do it. Okay. He was doing it because he was studying the structure and the relationship between cultures. See, that's part of being a linguist. As a linguist, you're not just going to study the language. You got to also study the culture of the people. And as far as their relationship with, others from their environment or outside in their environment or surrounding areas. And that's what you have to do as a linguist. You don't just say, okay, we just going to look at the language and that's it. No, you got to understand, well, where did this language come from? Where did it derive from? Where did it derive from? Where did the origin take place? How did it come to this point? You got to look at the people and you got to look at how the culture was, right? because without culture, you will not have language. So it's funny to me when I hear people say things like, "Oh, Afro-Asiatic is not a language model." Afro-Asiatic is not a language model. Well, if it's not a language model, then how can't you prove it to? How can't you prove that to be not true? How can't you prove it? Well, where's your information? Did you actually study the culture of the people in that land? Did you study the cultural relationship they had? Did you study the surrounding area? Or are you just going by the fact that you believe that this person was being biased? And I honestly think people thought that Joseph Greenberg was just being biased because he said Afro-Asiatic. Or at that time, it was a Hamato-Semitic language. That's what it was at that time period. So people don't agree with it, so they come up with this Negro Egyptian stuff. Why are there two different methods, or did you say one was outdated? Okay, so the one that's outdated is the mass comparison. That's the one that's outdated. That was the model that was used by Joseph Greenberg because it's been replaced with the concept of comparative method. It has been replaced by comparative method. They don't use the mass comparison anymore. So the comparative method is what is more validated. But with the comparative method, what would you use? In order to validate things, you got to look at phonology, morphology, the syntax or the meaning, right? And you got to look at the lexicon. That's the four things that you have to look at to be able to bring back comparative method. Otherwise, you're not using comparative method, right? I'm just saying. And again, you will have to study the culture of where these languages come from. You will have to study the cultural relationship. That's what you will have to look at. All right, so if anybody else got any question, let me know. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. So I thank you guys for coming through, and I apologize for the fact that I had to cuss somebody out because I think that person was trying to be a troll, and they were trying to come on here and talk shit. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to come on here and talk shit to me, but I had to block that person, let that person know, like, you ain't gonna try it over here. All right. But yeah, when we see that, and also when you see the religious, some say that there is a Nostratic language family that includes Afro-Asiatic. Okay, I would have to look into the concept about Nostratic language family. I have to look into that. So I can't tell you yes and I can't say no. That's something I have to look up. So once I look that up, then I can be able to come back with an answer. But other than that, I don't have an answer for that. So I can't tell you. I can't tell you if the Nostratic language family includes Afro-Asiatic family. I would have to look into that. Okay. That's the only thing I can tell you. All right. So yeah, that's all I have. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you guys for coming through. I appreciate y'all checking out my channel. So make sure you guys subscribe. If you like it, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share this channel. Check out all the other video contents on here. So now, some of my videos, the sound is pretty messed up. I'm just gonna let y'all know. So if you look at my other videos, the sound is kind of messed up. All right. So yeah, but other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. And like I said, what was I saying before I got to this point? Oh yeah, I remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, I want to say this one last thing. So as far as like when you look at religion, right, like various form of religious practice, you will see where its origin came from. You know what I'm saying? So like when you look at the religion like Islam, for example, you go to the pre-Islamic period. When you study the pre-Islamic period, you dealing with pre-Islamic Arabia, which is dealing with the Nabatean religion. Okay, and Nabatean people were from the area which is now known today as Jordan. All right, so you will see the origin of their language. I mean, their religion, etc. So their religion, it was brought about the influence of modern day Islam. And also, you will see that the Nabatean religion got some of its concept from the ancient Egyptian religion practice as well, along with the Greek religious practice, Roman practices, etc. So you have to see the cultural relationship and how it influenced one another. So that's all I gotta say. Yeah, but thank you guys so much. And y'all take it easy. Y'all be safe. Y'all be careful. And I will be with y'all later. All right. So peace and power elevation. So this your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off saying deuces. All right.